Hey folks, welcome again to 5 Minutes for Healing. And on today's video, we're going to be working on what's called the working zone. You may recall from our last video, we talked about the wobble, that painful back and forth between the two opposing states called intrusion and constriction. For recall, we can say that intrusion is characterized by a sense of being flooded, unbearable pain, big emotions, at times compulsive behaviors, being overwhelmed. All we can say is patterns of re-experiencing the original trauma. Now, we can also now include its purpose. We believe intrusion represents a need in the individual to complete and integrate the traumatic experience, to make it whole. That's what drives intrusion. And again, constriction for review, a pattern of numbing and avoidance, represents a need to shut down and protect oneself from pain, from overwhelming pain, as well as perceived danger. So here now we can talk about the purpose of constriction as well. We see the purpose is to keep oneself safe and free from pain. Now, of course, constriction is not true safety. It's illusion of safety. It's like putting your head under the covers to not face the day. So we need to go elsewhere to do our healing work. And changes can never occur if we're in full-blown intrusion or full-blown constriction. The only place that we can kind of learn to grow is between these two opposing states. And this is what we call the working zone. It's a psychological space that strikes a balance between these two opposing needs. For the trauma survivor, it's a sense of feeling grounded. You might be experiencing pain, but the pain is tolerable. You relate to others, and it allows you to express your authentic self. If you can occupy this in-between zone, this is how you can progress. And part of the experience then is that we need to consider what we can call distress tolerance, how we can hang in there in the working zone to do the necessary work. So, in essence, what we need to do is get that optimal distance from the painful feelings of the two opposing states. Enough distance so that the feeling states aren't overwhelming, they're tolerable, and yet not so much distance that you remain numb or isolated. So this is a good example of the Goldilocks goal here. Not too hot, not too cold. You want to get it just right. So this is where the recovery happens. Anchoring yourselves in the present, gradually process the unfinished trauma content, and get on with one's life. So now, in order to do that, if you find yourself shifting towards intrusion, you may want to consider that there are particular ways to do that. If you're finding yourself drifting in that direction, use grounding techniques to stay in the present. Positive self-talk. For example, this feeling will pass. Take deep breaths, stay in the present, remind yourself that the worst is over. Practice self-care. Avoid old or risky patterns of behavior. And be mindful of boundaries. And be respectful of your limits as well as other people's limits. Now, on the other hand, if you're finding yourself drifting towards constriction, there may be some other approaches that may be helpful here. First of all, just acknowledge that that you do have these uncomfortable thoughts and memories, and these are completely normal given your experience. become aware of the emotions you're holding. You can label them to yourself and see if you can remain present with the feeling state and at the same time be connected to your physical body. And override any tendencies you want or you may move to in terms of isolation. So override the isolating tendencies by choosing an activity could very well be with other people. Ultimately, ask for help as need be. Expand your circle of support and find small steps to letting other people in. So regardless of which angle of the wobble you may be heading towards, you need to be able to map yourself. Have a sense of which direction you're going to, label it as such, and then kick in your skills of observing yourself, being curious about the direction you're going, and that certain strategies may be helpful in curbing the direction of intrusion, just like curbing the direction of constriction. And it's all going to take practice and practice and practice. So there we go. Thanks for joining us today. Stay tuned to our next video in the series of trauma recovery. Until we meet again, friends.